Production.
Peace and love. I'm back again. I'm turning to my L, also known as the Sagent. Sage is being historically classified as the ones who know, and the agent is someone who conducts or transacts business on behalf of another. I'm here transacting and conducting business on behalf of the highest order. Simple, plainly put, straight up and down. You know, peace to my American nationals. Islam to the Moors. Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim family. And peace to anybody else who I may have left out. So, we're getting straight into it. Ain't nothing to talk about. Alright? Because with this learning thing, it's a steep learning curve. You gotta go in quick, you gotta go strong, and you gotta go hard. Ain't no plaything with this. So this is an important video for my people who knows that something is wrong. They just ain't put their ear all the way to the door. They haven't come into a clear understanding of how to operate in their proper capacity. So this is how to operate like an American national. But before you can operate as an American national, you have to become an American national. I can become an American national? How do I do it? What state agency or state government do I have to petition to get that? Wrong answer. Out the gate. You're not even thinking like a national yet. Because a national is what? In the private. And the private is whose? God's realm. And God's realm is what? Natural law. Yeah, man's dominion over the earth. The cosmic law. The mathematics. Everything that came from the universe. Nothing statutorily created. That's the private. So to operate as a national, you have to understand what it means to remain private. Or you acting too private. You too sneaky. You too secret. Well, excuse me, but please prove to me where I am obliged to inform you or anybody else of my personal business. Okay? I don't like people in my business. I move militant. That means security is the first order of the day. Militant. Okay? So we stand on our P's and Q's. You have no duty or obligation to inform on yourself to anybody. All my people out there with your home address, on your state ID. Now these gangsters know where you lay your head. They don't come knocking if they want you neither. They're gonna kick your door. Wouldn't it be a little bit right to comprehend that you don't have to inform yourself? Wouldn't that make sense? You stay private in everything else except for what you should be private for. I'm not telling my business. And you know them motherfuckers all they want to do is talk about what you. Hey man, the people who you ought to be protecting your business from, they know more about you than yourself. Google, go ask Google. Go do a FOIA request, a freedom of information, and see how much Google know about you. That phone in your pocket all day with them social media apps on it, with your location turned on. Go see how much they know about you. I have a social media phone specifically for that purpose, and it does not go about with me during the course of my day. I don't need no electronic device informing on me, right? And then you got these people out in the public, whether it be public officials, who criminalize you for keeping you out their business. Oh, he must be up to something. Let's investigate him. So you mean to tell me if I don't want to inform on myself, I'm doing something unlawful, illegal, suspicious, janky? Is that what you're trying to tell me? So how to operate as an American national, you have to comprehend that you're private. And if somebody from out in the public comes to you trying to adjudicate you or control you with their statutes, which is public law, with their tax law, which is public law, with their constitutional law, which is public law, then you know, hey, I'm private. And in order for me to be subject to anything out in the public, I had to have contracted. So please provide me the contracts so I can go over it. So I can have a chance to prepare a proper defense. A proper defense. I need to be able to prepare a proper defense against you all. Because if I don't know what's going on, I can't properly defend myself. Right? And that's just the fact of the matter. When you're a national, it's a mindset. So, when the Europeans came to this great land centuries ago, in an effort to find a new place in order to start a new life away from the tyranny of England, did they turn around and ask England for permission to declare themselves independent of them? No, that wouldn't make sense. I'm running from you. Why would I turn around and ask you for permission? So you as a national, as an American national, why would you claim that you're not subject to anything anybody try to perpetrate on you in the public? Government, court, tickets, taxes. And then turn around and ask these same people who you say you're not subject to for permission to declare you a national. Huh? Oh, you have to ask the government to change your name. Well, since I know if it has to do with the government, it's public, then if I go and change the name out in the public, I'm not changing my name. I'm just changing my Monopoly piece's name, my straw man's name. They're changing it in their system because it was created by them and recorded in their files. Makes sense, doesn't it? And anytime you move that Monopoly piece, you have to tell who about it. Yeah, the people who created it. Right? So, when you are national, you've rebutted the presumption, the joinder that was caused between you and the fiction. I'm a man on the land. I'm a man on the land. The only thing that limits me is the law of physics in this physical world or the boundaries of my imagination. But no, I don't wish to come out to the public and agree to be regulated. You can only regulate fictions. Now, if I decide to use my fiction, then of course my fiction will comply with public regulations. But that's for the fiction. All right? It's a difference. So, what we need to understand is, like, the basis, the roots of this. And that's going to be things like, your domicile, residence. Okay? Where do you live? Is where you live the reason you're subject to a certain status? Mr. National, Miss National, Mrs. National. Oh, but I thought you were a national. You let me put Mr. and Mrs. in front of that? That implies corporate title. Objection. Oh, please don't call me Mr. You got to know. Don't subject yourself to anyone. They might feel like you're combative. But you're not. You just see. And what else matters when it comes to you operating as a national? Well, the meaning of the word United States. And we went over that in the Dred Scott video. Statutory and constitutional citizens. And you understand that the words are scientific. Every word means something. Don't think you know what that's talking about. If you don't know what it's talking about, crack open your law dictionary. It doesn't have to be specifically Black's Law. It could be Bouvier's. There's other different types of Blackstone commentaries. There are different types of citations to authority as far as definitions go. The older, the better. So, don't guess. No. So, is that maybe why, as a statutory citizen, maybe you're subjected to franchise status, regulated by the public, the unseen hand. Okay, and you got statutory nationals as well. You got statutory nationals. So these are things that we have to look into. And this is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes. So if you decide to step out on faith and exercise anything, not just this information, understand when you jump in the ring, ready or not, it's time to fight. Ready or not, it's time to fight. So you got to bail up in there, and you can't be playing with it. You have to know. So simply being born and thereby becoming a statutory national under 8 USC section 1101, subsection A, subsection 21, a specific country is not an exercise of personal discretion or an express act of consent. So just because you were born there within their statutory jurisdiction, that does not mean that you consented to it. Okay? Living in a physical place without choosing a domicile, there is not an exercise of personal discretion. But it's not a exercise of personal discretion or an express act of consent. So neither one of those two are being born there or living in a physical place without choosing a domicile. Okay? So we have to know the effect of domicile on a civil statutory status. Okay. The law of domicile is almost exclusively the means of determining one's civil status under the civil statutory laws of a given territory. Domiciles exclusively means determining your civil status. Where you live determine your status. Don't that sound familiar? Who grew up somewhere tough, rough? Your status. Ooh, he lived over there. He wanted them. He lived over here. Oh, he a L rookie. Oh, he stay over there. He a blood. It seemed like whatever block you was born on is what you became. You couldn't rarely be born in a black pea stone neighborhood and by default come a gangster disciple. No. If you're born in a black pea stone neighborhood, but that's your domicile, that's where you were born, guess what you are going to become? A black pea stone. Right? If you grew up in New Orleans, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be a Green Bay Packers fan. The football team that was here for this city is who I'm going to root for because I was born here. So whatever football team represent my city, I root for it. And I don't watch sports. So the law of domicile is almost exclusively the means of determining one's civil status. That's your status because you was born here. So it may be laid down that the status, or as it is sometimes called, civil status, in contradistinction to political status of a person depends largely, although not universally, upon domicile. The older jurist, whose opinions are fully collected by Story, I, and Burge, maintained, with few exceptions, the principle of ubiquity of status conferred by the lex domicili, with little qualification. Lord Westerbury in Udny versus Udny, UDNY versus UDNY Udny, thus states the doctrine broadly. The civil status is governed by one single principle, namely that of domicile, which is the criterion established by law for the purpose of determining civil status. For it is on this basis that the personal rights of the party, that is to say, the law which determines his majority and minority, his marriage, succession, testacy, or intestacy, must depend on domicile. They said wherever you from, it's basically gonna dictate how your life gonna go, what status and what type of attitude you gonna take, and who you may become. If you grew up in a house full of doctors, it's a good chance you, by being born in that setting, are going to become what was going on in that household. Okay, you got first, second, third generation dope boys. You got first, second, third, fourth generation gynecologists, pediatricians. So they saying your status is based on your domicile. So what does Black's Law 4th edition have to say about this? Page 572. Domicile. That place where a man has his true, fixed, and permanent home and principal establishment, and to which, whenever he is absent, he has the intention of returning. Domicile. That's the spot. That's the crib. That's home. That's where you lay. Domicile. Domicile. Not for a mere special or temporary purpose, but with the present intention of making a permanent home for an unlimited or indefinite period. That's your domicile. That's your domicile. So, we all know when you get a piece of mail and it says what you think your name is on it, and it has what you think is your address, and it has what you think is your zip code. Well, zip codes specifically relate to federal zoning. Federal zoning. Well, when you walk out in your grass, do you see your zip code etched into the land? Do you see the line where the federal zone is for this zip code? Okay, then. That means it's fictitious and it's not a place of meets and bounds. Meets and bounds. Meet at a corner right here. It stops right here. It doesn't cross. Meets and bounds. That I can give a description of this land by the meets and bounds. It will just tree. Stop at that tree. Go over there to that corner to that fence and then come down. He got convicted in the Central District of Illinois. In the federal court, he got convicted in the Northern District of Illinois. When I drive down 55, I don't see a sign that says, you have entered the Central District of Illinois. You have entered the Northern District of Illinois. You have entered the Southern District of Illinois. But the federal court convicts guys according to district. So if you're from East St. Louis, Illinois, they're not going to convict you in the Northern District of Illinois, which is Chicago. And the Central District is Champaign, Urbana, Springfield, Peoria. And then the Southern District is all the little country towns, Effingham, East St. Louis, Alton. No. Where he lives is what's going to determine where he's going to get booked in. Right? Your domicile, where you live. So if you're in that federal zoning, that's a statutory domicile. Starting to make sense? But you're not statutory, you're national. Remember that, national? You have to think as a national. Well, what could they be talking about if they wasn't talking about me? Well, from national to national, you're a monopoly piece for educational purposes. Your monopoly piece has a statutory address and a statutory zip code. If you stand on land, what are you? Non-assumption. Assumpsit. He undertook. He promised. Black's Law Dictionary, page 157. A promise or engagement by which one person assumes or undertakes to do some act or pay something to another. It may be either oral or promisor or in writing, but is not under seal. It is expressed if the promiser puts his engagement in distinct and definite language. It is implied where the law infers a promise through no formal one has passed from the conduct of the party and circumstance of the case. Assumption. So what is it said? It's implied. It's implied when you don't express it. Express it is writing it out. Implied is the opposite. You can imply something by not saying anything too. If you standing in New York and you call a taxi, you get in. You're implying that you're going to pay him for a ride. That's a contract. So assumption, you're non-assumption. So they're saying basically that you're agreeing by using this zip code on this envelope to a statutory status, but you're a national, right? So when you were dealing with your correspondences through the mail, you would be wise to write non-assumption. Rural free delivery. No zip code near your city, your state, the Republic of Texas. Galveston, the Republic of Texas. Non-assumption. 00000. That means we ain't got no zip code. You a national. So we have to act as a national. So we already established that the civil law attaches to one's voluntary choice of civil domicile. Civil law in turn enforces and thereby delivers certain privileges against those who are subject to it. In that sense, the civil law acts as a voluntary franchise or protection franchise that is only enforceable against those who voluntarily consent to avail themselves to its benefits or protections. Those who voluntarily and consensually avail themselves to such benefits and who are therefore subject to the protection franchise called domicile, in turn are treated as public officers within the government under federal law, as is exhaustively established in case law. So, public citizen, you need welfare. You're availing yourself to a benefit. I need welfare from you, government. My child's father doesn't want to take care of the child, so I'm ordering you to protect me in the interest of my children by putting him on child support. Public person, I'm calling the police. Public person, a national protects himself and his family. A national is a man or a woman. A national doesn't call public servants. The only reason they come is to clean up the mess. And if they try to contract with you by way of your situation, as a national, you know how to defeat that. National. Get that word stuck in your head. Oh, I'm black. I'm a nigga, G. Yeah, I'm just a paisa. No, you're not. You're a national with a proper status. So when you go in to these public plays, you know that you're not pro se. You're not representing yourself. Well, how are you not representing yourself? Well, I'm not representing myself because they called the all caps name. So if they say you're pro se, they're giving you a license for that day to practice law in their public play. Pro se, you're defending yourself. I'm defending myself. No, I'm standing on my square. And I'm administering my monopoly piece. Because I know I'm a national. Propria Persona. As a national, you're in your Propria Persona. What does that sound like? Proper person? Natural living man? Not corporate statutory citizen? That's my monopoly piece. There's a difference between the two. Not us. The two. Because us implies another human. Propria persona, in his own person. It is a rule in pleading that pleas to the jurisdiction of the court must be pleaded in propria persona, because if pleaded by attorney, they admit the jurisdiction, as an attorney is an officer of the court, and he is presumed to plead after having obtained leave, which is permission, which admits the jurisdiction. An appearance may be in propria persona and need not to be by attorney. Bro, I just gave my lawyer 30 G's. I'm straight. No, you're not. Oh, you finna go for that ride. Propria persona said in his own person. Okay? If pleaded by attorney, guess what, mister? You gave your attorney 30 G's. You admitted to the jurisdiction of the court. Public person, Mr. Surety for the debt. The state's offer is 3 years at 50%. You'll do a year and a half and be home. Man, that ain't shit. I'm finna take that. Go ahead. Surety. I'm a national. I'm not going to be a surety for no corporate fiction. If this pen got up and just jumped out my hand and went outside and stabbed somebody by itself under its own control, this pen, would you go and do the time for the harm that this pen caused to its victim? No. The state's offer to you on behalf of your pen is 3 years. Would you like to go sit 3 years at 50%, which is a year and a half, for what your pen did? Yeah, I'll take that. That ain't shit. I'll go do that in my head. There you go. You a national. National is a mindset. You all loafing out in the public. You got your head down in your phone at nighttime with your screen brightness all the way up. You breaching security. You're not a national. Your lady stuck downstairs with the groceries and you ran in the house to go sit down and play your game. You're not a national. You're supposed to watch them in. Then you go on the door last. With the hammer of Thor on your hip. Ready to protect and lay down your life for your loved ones. National. We're calling the cops. You got a gun in your hand. I can't call no public servants to come help me. I'm a national. God gave me power and dominion, and God gave me the right to protect this vessel on this plane because it carries my spirit until I go back. I wouldn't think twice. In defense of self or the preservation of loved ones. So you still gonna call the cops? You still gonna call the police? Public person? Look, just give us a name and we'll let you go. Well, public person, what are you gonna do? I'm a national. I don't know nothing about what y'all talking about. I know you just trying to offer the contract with me. I have nothing to give you but a conditional acceptance. National. Just give us a name. Look, man, I'll tell y'all what y'all need to know, man. You said I'd get out a little bit sooner. Public person, you contracting with them on the public side. Informant. Because even though you're going to serve a public debt and pay off a public debt in your public capacity in the prison, it gets real personal and private in prison. You realize what privacy means in prison. Mr. Man walking around here with the jingling keys can come open this door and go in your locker anytime he chooses. No privacy there. You're in the public capacity. Take off your underwear. Spread your cheeks. Public person. You serving and paying for a debt, for a fiction that we can regulate, but we can't regulate you. But now we regulate you by way of this fiction because you agreed to join with the fiction and go be a surety for your fiction. But you're a national. So that comes down to the Buck Act as well. Instrumentalities of you availing yourself to public protections and benefits. Social Security, you drawing off the state? Huh? You need an IRA? Come on. Let them keep rolling in. You need your gun license? Let them keep rolling in. You need your driver's license. Public person? You're asking the state of whoever, can you have permission to do something out in the public? Hey man, you a felon, bro. I don't know what you talking about. You went to prison. I did. But I didn't know. And now I do. So, am I subjected to, or am I the slave to the rhythm of a bad decision? Maybe. Do I have to continue to stay there? No. I refuse to. I refuse to. So, you have different types of specifications for these inhabitants of the ground the soil, or a statutory person or individual, alien, non-resident alien, spouse, taxpayer, citizen, inhabitant, resident. A resident, res means a thing, like property, res, the res of the trust, a res, and ident means what? Identified. Res, ident. A thing identified. Resident. Resident. You're a resident. But no, I'm a national. So how am I a resident of this corporate fiction? Because you were informed on at your birth, and an alter you was created on paper, and it was filed with the public, the estate of the public trust. And now your BC, birth certificate, social security number, resides in the file cabinets of who? The public. It's public record, statutory trust. The public person resides within the file cabinets of the state of. All right? So as a national, you go private. Well, how do you do that? I am private. I don't tell people my business. No. You understand and overstand that according to the Privacy Act of 1974, that the Social Security card can only be compelled for a few reasons. And that's not that's not to get a home. It didn't say you have to give up your social security number to get a home. Your social security number, public person. It didn't say that you have to use a social security number to acquire a vehicle. Use a social security number to get an apartment. Use a social security number to rent furniture from Rent a Center. Use a social security number to identify yourself with the people who are trying to put a lean and garnish your wages, you give everybody your social security. Yeah, we need your social. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, we need your social. Here you go. We need your social. Here you go. And on the back of the card, it said don't give the number to nobody. On the back of the social security card, it says don't give this number to anybody. So what does that tell you about that social and how powerful it is? Public person. Anytime you use it, who knows about it? The state of knows that you, by way of your monopoly piece, acquired a pistol. The state of whoever knows that you acquired a home by way of your monopoly piece. They know that you acquired a vehicle by way of your monopoly piece. You have a driver's license for your monopoly piece. You have a concealed carry permit for your monopoly piece. You're a public person. When they run up on you and say, identify yourself, what do you give them? A state ID. I'm a national. I don't identify myself with state documents or instruments. Why? Because if I'm in possession of a state document instrument, that's evidence of a contract with who? The public. Through what? Your monopoly piece, to whom a social security number is attached to. You are national. National. That's a mindset. Knowing that you are national is a mindset. Hey, bro, where you from? What you a citizen of? Oh, I'm a national, bro. What's a national? A national is someone owing allegiance to a state. A national is Article 4, Section 2. State citizen. Not the 14th Amendment. Public person. Those born in the United States are subject to the exclusive jurisdiction thereof. Let's see this. In Hooven and Allison Company versus Evitt, which was a landmark case, and I already went over this in the Dred Scott case. Because I said as a national, you're recognized by their Constitution, which is public law. Now we realize we're not looking to the Constitution to say, oh, we have our rights. And no, the Constitution recognized your rights outside of it. Because the Constitution relates to the public and your monopoly piece is public status. Okay? I have rights by the Constitution. Well, in the Dred Scott decision, we know that melanated people, Negroes is what they called them, they were property at the time. They were not meant to be included in the Constitution. So, are you a U.S. citizen or are you a state national? Because before the 14th Amendment, there was no such thing as a U.S. citizen. Because the United States is, according to 28 U.S.C. 3002-15A, a federal corporation. They're not hiding it from you. They got a Dun & Bradstreet number just like you do with your LLC. Business owner, don't you got a Dun & Bradstreet number? Okay, they do too. They have a credit score too. The U.S. Ain't no different than Burger King, McDonald's, Hardee's, Ace Hardware Store, Road Ranger, AutoZone, O'Reilly's. They public. You got a problem with McDonald's? Can you tell the sign to jump down off the side of the building and come fix your burger? No, because McDonald's doesn't exist on the same plane as you do. It exists on a piece of paper, and it has living, human, sentient men and women operate on its behalf by way of written permission. Okay, so are you a U.S. citizen? Well, according to Hooven and Allison Company versus Evitt, the term United States may be used in one of several senses. It may be merely the name of a sovereign in a family of nations. Okay, and who is sovereign? Georgia versus Chisholm, go look it up. Who is sovereign? The people. In a family of nations, the name of a sovereign, which is a country of sovereign men and women collectively. in a family of nations. Who are the family of nations? The other countries, the other continents. Those are the families of nations. It may designate a territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. There go, capital U, capital S. That's a proper noun. The United States has a name for its company, the United States. It may designate a territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. So if this corporate United States buys a piece of land, probably, Guam, well, yeah, Puerto Rico. Yeah, if you're born in Puerto Rico, what? You were born in where? The United States, right? Okay, cool. The United States company has and can operate through its public person and acquire property. Guam, Puerto Rico, Pacific Trust Territories, the Northern Mariana Islands, the Canal Zone, Swain Islands. Are these not territories over which the sovereignty, exclusive authority of this corporation, sovereignty, extends? Okay then. If you were born in D.C., you're under the exclusive sovereignty of the corporate United States because that is an insular possession, a territory of the corporate United States, 28 U.S.C. 3002-15A. Or it may be a collective name of the states which are united by and under the Constitution. That sounds awfully familiar to the term United States, but in a different context because the United States above it says it may designate a territory over which sovereignty of the United States extends. The United States has a capital U, lowercase n, I-T-E-D, and a capital S, lowercase t-a-t-e-s. That's a proper noun. United States is the name of the company. But down here it says the states, lowercase s. The state is what? The people. The state. That's not a proper noun. They didn't call anybody's name. The state is the people. The body of the people is the state. Okay? Which are united. That doesn't have a capital U. United. Because united is a what? Adjective. Is describing something. United. Brought together. Conjoined. Converged. Amalgamated. By and under the Constitution. United by and under the Constitution. That's not a proper noun. So they tell you the different contexts in which the word United States can be used. So what does that tell you? All right then, that there's a different context that you, person, can be used in. Public person, I'm a national. Well, is this your social security number? No. It's my Monopoly piece of social security number. I'm a national. I don't have a social. Well, we need your social to open this bank account. Well, I need to talk to your legal department. I have a WABEN. I have an EIN in order for me to come out in the public, but I don't have a social because I'm a national. So, can you see if you're not in a certain status that you can't avail yourself to certain benefits? You need that social to get a bank account. Is it not a benefit to be able to participate in their banking game, the public banking system? You need a bank account to do anything, right? Well, if you get your public piece, your LLC, or your corporation, or your trust, a bank account, is that yours? No, it's your public pieces bank account. And you ought to know that that's not your bank account. You ought to know that that's not your name. You ought to know that even though it resembles your name, it sounds like it, it's not you. Public, private. We standing on that. We standing on that. And then they use words like shall, mandatory, must, comply. The laws are meant to protect, not compel. So, national, natural man, natural woman, when you come into the public and they say, well, Mr. National, Miss National, objection. We don't want that corporate title. Oh, well, sir, let's sir. Neo. Neo was a national when he was at home. Because they said his name. They addressed him by Neo in the private. Neo. And then when Neo came into the Matrix, the public, the agents called him Mr. Anderson. Does the robe, the judge in the court, call you by your first name? No. Mr. Smith, Mr. Brown, Mr. Jackson. Huh? No. That means if I call you by your first name, that's a private gesture. Like, I know you personally. In the private, I call you by your first name. Out in public, I call you Mr. No, I'm a national. Hey, sign this. No, I don't sign papers. What do you need my signature for? So we can monetize it. Oh, well, did you say something? Oh, no, I didn't say anything. I guess you don't have to sign it. And if you do sign something and you're conducting business with your monopoly piece, then you want to reserve your rights because you're a national. You want to let them know by way of UCC 1-308 that you will not be compelled to perform on the obligation of a contract that you did not knowingly or willingly enter. You want to veil yourself to an adversarial proceeding if the inception of the contract was based upon a fraud. Okay? So anytime you're forced to sign something, you want to send out your SOS on the signature. STDC. Sir, what does that mean? Oh, those are some extra initials. He don't care. He just wants you to sign a paper. STDC. Stress, threat, duress, coercion. So if it comes down to it, hey, what does that mean? Or stress, threat, duress, and coercion? No, that doesn't mean that. I signed it. I'm the one that put that there. How you going to tell me what I did or did not mean by that? I signed this under threat. Your public servant, dressed up in his nice uniform with his fast car with these bright, pretty lights on it, inhibited my movement and pulled me off the public roadway in order to come into my private vessel to infringe upon my rights. So he wants me to sign his public document, and he's openly bearing a firearm. And a lot of you guys and people who have encountered the police, if you ever read a police report, they take you to jail for this. When they say in the police report, he was visibly shaking and nervous. Well, is not the average encounter with law enforcement not nerve-wracking for the quote-unquote young black men or anybody for that matter, right? Is that not nervous because we know what type of deceptive tactics you all employ in order for us to waive our rights? Where are you headed? Wherever this car takes me. Well, why are you going so fast? Well, I didn't know that I was going so fast. Well, who is this in the vehicle with you? Well, they can tell you that. They come back to your window. Hey, what's his name? Oh, he just told you. Sir, I'm going to need for your questions to pertain to why you pulled me over. Other than that, I owe you no explanation on where I'm headed to and where I'm coming from. Because guess what? The more you talk, the more you incriminate yourself. He got your buddy in the back seat so scared that your buddy said something different than you did. Hello, Terry versus Ohio. This just became a Terry stop. This is a drug investigation now. Because you said, hey, we're going to St. Louis. And he said, well, we're going to Kansas City. So you mean to tell me all four of y'all in the car together and all y'all don't know where y'all going? That's kind of suspicious. Huh. He talking to his buddy like, hey, did we just establish probable cause? Yes, we did. Hey, could you step out the car, sir? I'm a national. I know if a public policy enforcement officer tries to interact with me, that I provide him with my private documentation, letting him know who I am, my international driver's license. This is what I handle. And it has my nationality on there. And it does not represent a corporate fiction. It's a presentation of who I am and my credentials. This is who I am. And here's also my travel pack. I have a public servant questionnaire. Because if you ask too many questions, your contractor, I need to understand that we're on the same page, sir. And here's my affidavit of right to travel on the land. If you decide or feel like you're getting ready or wish to infringe on any of my rights, I'm a national. Are you a national? It's a mindset. National. We not out in the streets all night. National. If we do stay up all night, we're working. National. I'm working. I'm working on bringing you what you need to know in order for you to protect yourself and have safeguards in place when you come into the public. Because you know you're private. And you're a national. Okay? Your status under the civil statutory law is exclusively determined by the exercise of your private, unalienable right to both contract and associate, which are protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Yes, it is protected. Article 1, Section 10. No state shall make a law impairing or shall pass a law impairing the obligations of contracts. So you, private, state, national, you, Moorish, American, national, you, Hebrew, national, Israelite, national, Indian, national, Arabic, national. Go watch the movie Rush Hour. And what did he say on the phone? Or what you hear him say on the news? The daughter of a Chinese national has been kidnapped. Go look at it. I wouldn't lie to you about what a national is. What's the name of the Washington, D.C. baseball team? The Nationals. National. Get that in your head. Get that in your head. You're not a citizen. You're a national. But it's, in retrospect, you saying I'm a national reflects your what? Your state citizenship. You saying, hey, I belong to my state, which is my country of birth. Huh? I'm a Moorish American Illinoisan. I'm a Moorish national. I'm a Moorish American national. I'm a Illinois national. I'm an American national. Or I'm just a national. You ought to walk like a national. Talk like one. Act like one. Look like one. Public person. Because we forge for what we need off the land as nationals. We live like kings and queens because we're not subject to the authority of someone else. I mean, God gave me dominion. Why would I subject myself to a fiction? I'm a national. I'm subject to these physical laws. I'm subject to natural law. I'm subject to karmic law. I'm subject to the law of cause and effect. But you, public person, are subject to, oh, you got to walk in those lines in the street crosswalk. You got to cut your grass. Well, out there in Vegas and Cali, y'all can't water your grass. You get in trouble for it. Public person. Hey, the tint on your car is too dark. Public person. Your truck is lifted too high off the ground. Public person. You're going too fast. Public person. Your speakers can't be up that loud. Public person. You didn't have your turn signal on, public person. Your headlight was out, public person. You got your gun license, but you didn't have your gun, your magazine out your gun, and then and away from the gun in the glove box, and have the gun in the middle compartment, public person. What good does that serve you? If something happens, you have to defend your family. You got to go reach in your glove box to get the magazine out, and then you got to reach in your middle compartment and to put your magazine in, get one in the chamber, and protect your family. Nationals, we ready to rock. As a national, you ready to rock. They can't regulate your gun rights. National. If y'all talking about the NRA and you can't put a bump stock on a gun, and in California you can't have more than 10 round capacity. You can't do this, and you can't have a fully automatic weapon, and you can't do this. You can't put a foregrip on a AR pistol because they said that's against the rules. That would make it, you're shooting it like a rifle, and you can't use the buffer tube on your AR pistol as a stock. Public persons get their gun rights regulated. Public person, you got to go through a background check to go get your gun. Public person. Oh, we do that so guns don't end up in the hands of criminals. Well, after they confiscate your guns and put them in their evidence lockers, who was in possession of the weapons? Criminals. Give us your gun. You don't know what to do with that. Hey, if you got a gun card from us and somebody issues an order of protection on you, we're taking your gun back. Or no, if you get your medical marijuana license, you can't have your gun card. So would you rather have your medicine or your gun? Well, what do you think, National? Do you want to have your medicine and your gun? Well, you're a national. You have the right to keep and bear arms. You have the right to enforce your rights. You have the right to not be compelled to perform or be held as a surety in the public because you are a national. You are a national. So, Folly Brothers versus Falardo, this is a case that I read in 2017, but it's from 1949. And it's a well-established principle of law that all federal regulation applies only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States unless a contrary intent appears. A contrary intent, that means unless it's otherwise stated. All federal legislation and regulation applies to what? Territorial jurisdiction. Well, what's that? D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico. Territorial jurisdiction. Over what? That's social. So that's federally regulated. Social Security is a federal program, just like child support is federal. It's just administered through the states. And child support, for my man who on child support, was not intended for individual needy families or kids. It was intended for the benefit of the public treasury, the support of the public treasury. If we issuing out all these benefits, somebody needs to pay us back. Child support. The laws of Congress in respect to those matters outside of constitutionally delegated powers do not extend into the territorial limits of the states. The laws of Congress in respect to those matters do not extend into the territorial limits of the states, but have force only in the District of Columbia and other places that are within the exclusive jurisdiction of the national government. Caha versus U.S. CAHA versus U.S. There is a canon, which is a moral law, of legislative construction, which teaches Congress that unless a contrary intent appears, legislation is meant to apply within territorial jurisdiction of the United States. U.S. versus Speller, Spelar. So what are they telling you? Our corporate law only applies to corporate fictions, in corporate places, in corporate zip codes, federal zoning. public addresses. So, does it feel like you have a choice now? No, hey man, hey bro, don't go up in there playing with them people. Stand down, public person. I'm not playing with nobody. I'm a national. And for the sake of this video, I express how I feel. But in court, it's a gentleman's game. You keep a straight face. You speak in an intelligent tone, and you get a favorable reply. Good morning. How you all doing? I wish to remain in honor. I'm making a special restricted appearance as a third-party intervener on behalf of the defendant. Well, who are you? I'm the living man. I'm just here looking for a remedy and here to discharge any and all obligations for the defendant outstanding. Subrogation. S-U-B. Subrogation. I'm stepping in to take care of the debt of another. Okay? So, we know that over several of my videos, we learned that they can only, which is the public courts, concern itself with fictions and the contracts between them. They can't attain parity with the tangible. Well, who's the tangible? You, national. You. You're the tangible for educational purposes. You are the tangible. If you don't move this monopoly piece, well, it's not going to move itself. And if you break the rules of the monopoly game, go to jail. Don't pass go. Don't collect 200. Pay a tax. Party tax. Bank tax. Railroad tax. Tax. Parking tax. Public person. You were a banker. Monopoly. So, I'm not going to sit in jail for my monopoly piece. Okay? So, and as a national, you know that it's a fraud for somebody to claim that the statutes, which is public law, statutes, and statutes are an act of the legislator, and the legislator only applies to the public. So we know public law doesn't apply to us as nationals because we're in the private. Public law only applies to what? Not who, because who implies a human. I say what because it's an it. That's your monopoly piece. Municipal law, thus understood, is properly defined to be a rule of civil conduct prescribed by the same supreme power in a state, commanding what is right and prohibiting what is wrong. Municipal law. It is also called a rule to distinguish it from a compact or agreement. For a compact is a promise proceeding from us. Law is a command directed to us. The language of a compact is I will not do this. That of a law is thou shalt or shalt not do it. It is true there is an obligation which a compact carries with it, equal in point of conscience to that of a law, but then the original of the obligation is different. In compacts, we ourselves determine and promise what shall be done before we are obliged to do it. A compact sounds like what? A contract. It just says you yourself determine and promise what shall be done before you oblige yourself or make yourself obliged or committed to or agree to doing it. In law, we are obliged to act without ourselves determining or promising anything at all. Upon these accounts, law is defined to be a rule. And that came from readings on the history and systems of the common law. Second edition, Roscoe Pound, 1925, page 4. A compact is agreement. Before I do anything, I agree what should be done. A law is a rule because it's regulating. The law in the private is supposed to protect. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, that's made to what? Protect you, your life, the lives of your loved one. Thou shalt not steal. Made to protect what? Your personal property. Instead of you come out in the public, you can't speed. You have to have on your seatbelt. You have to have insurance. It's compelling you to do something. It's not protecting you because you're subject to a fine fee or suretyship for otherwise not having a victim, committing a victimless crime. You were speeding 30 over. We want you to go sit in jail for that. Who did I hurt? Nobody. So, public, private, oil, water. They don't mix. If you are traveling about this land, exercising your right to travel without a license, why in the hell would you have your private international driver's license recognizing your proper person and a state driver's license on you? Do you not have both the public and private in your pocket? Are you not confused as to who you are? You must be confused. You must be confused. National. Because we're nationals. For entertainment purposes. You're national. So, anything out in the public, and you subject to yourself in it, the revenue laws, the taxes and taxpayers, well, if you don't exercise your rights, if you fail to exercise your rights, you have none. So you probably 9 times out of 10 subjecting yourself by your tacit admission to it, by your acquiescence, by way of your silence. Pay a tax. Okay. Take your kids to school. Okay. Or else we'll take you to jail. We'll have you go be a surety for their public fictions. Hell no. Somebody come up to you and ask you for an amount of money you ain't got, what you gonna say? Hell no. Unless you ain't got it to give, you gonna. Hell no. You gonna speak up then, ain't you? Sir, you being charged with? No, I'm not being charged with anything. That monopoly piece is being charged with something. And I'll accept it for value and return it for settlement, set off, discharge, closure. Upon your proof of claim. That's my conditional acceptance. Any problems with that? Because I'm the private banker. You want what I got. What's that? Credit. What you want? 10,000? There go my signature. It's 10. You want 100,000? I'm creating credit. I'm creating credit from the private and giving it to them. It's unlimited. As long as I'm breathing and I can signature, I can create credit. All right. So, a quick recap. All this started, your status, because of your domicile and where you was born and where you was from. That's where all this started. That's where all this started. You live in a certain neighborhood. This is how you will be identified. So understanding and being a national, that you don't need permission from anybody. You're not asking anybody any permission to do anything. But one thing that you have to do, nobody knows what you're thinking until you what? Express it. Well, what do you mean? I can tell what you're thinking by what you're doing because you express yourself through everything. Movement, body language. Do you not express yourself by those things? If somebody walking down the street with their head down kicking the can, I know he or she is having poor thoughts. Self-deceptive thoughts. Impoverished thoughts. thoughts of minimum, thoughts of I can't afford this or that. If I see a man get up and work every day for what he wants and what he's trying to get out of life, I see a man with good character who's noble, then I know what he's thinking. I know he has a long time cherished and associated thoughts with noble thoughts, or noble qualities come from his noble thoughts. You see, act is an expression of thought, national, no matter how spontaneous. I thought about that. I thought about that too. I thought about that. Okay? Act is the blossom of thoughts. So wherever you lead yourself in the near future is a blossom of what you've been thinking. You've been having poor, groveling thoughts. Then must those poor, groveling thoughts return to you by way of circumstance? I'm working. And I stay away from the word try. Either you are or you aren't. Huh? I'm turning to my L. You picking up what I'm dropping? Watch this video multiple times. Comprehend it. So you're not looking all clammy. You're not all shook up and nervous when you go into a public play, because you know that you're what? A national. And the national is who? The sovereign man or woman. And the sovereign man or woman make up the what? The state. And the state has the what? Authority. To do what? Give authority. To who? Public servants. And the public servants are servants. So they have authority to do what? Administer what we gave them permission to take care of. So when did this public servant get authority over you? Shut up in my courtroom. I can't do that. Well, we're going to have you hauled out here and held you in contempt of court. I'm a national. You can do all that hoopla and screaming all you want to. Period. I'm not admitting to your jurisdiction. You don't say that. What do? We express that we know. Through what? Paperwork. Through intellectual conversation. So we're not out here just fist fighting, brawling. We're fencing. We fencing. You see what I'm saying? We elegant. Well, I am. Excuse me. I'm gonna keep that on the I statement. I had to learn. I had to get in the ring and spar. You can study and talk all you want to until it's time to bail up in the courtroom. Man, yeah. Oh, yeah, when I see dude, I'm going to whoop him. Man, if that was me, bro, I would have did this or this and that. No, you wouldn't have. Shut up. Give it up. Would you? Give it up. Stop saying what you would have or you could have or you would know. You don't know what you're going to do when you get in there. That's why you don't go in there and try to drive their car. You let them drive their car. You just object to making certain turns in this vehicle. And if they continue to make them turns, well, you have it on the record. And you still get your remedy, whether it's up front or on the back end. But you sit tight. Let me out, though. What he say on Boys in the Hood? Let me out, though. He said, let me out the car. If he didn't say that, guess what? He would have been there. He opened his mouth. He objected to it. Let me out the car. I don't want to be with y'all when y'all go murder somebody. Let me out. So it's the same thing. If you don't raise it, you waive it. If you don't go in there and let it be known that you're a national, by way of how you stand on your square in court, by way of how you comprehend what they're trying to attempt to do, by way of you knowing your physical position in the court, by way of you knowing the law of the flag, by you knowing how many jurisdictions is in the Constitution, 3, law, equity, and maritime, how you know law deals with men and women. So this can be a court of law because they're calling the name in all caps, and the name in all caps is capitis diminution maximum when the status of a man has been diminished to the maximum effect by way of all capital letters. In the Greg's Manual English, the name in all capital letters is a fictitious name, the name of a dead man or nom de guerre. So this could not be a court of law because law deals with human beings in the course and intercourse, business affairs with humans, like Judge Judy or Judge Joe Brown. Those are courts of law, even though it's televised. Okay? Cool. This can be a court of law. And equity, equity deals with what's right, what's fair, justice. Administering justice to the benefit of everybody involved. Equity, well, somebody trying to make me an offer to go sit in jail. That's not benefiting me. Y'all couldn't be dealing with equity because you're trying to force the debt of a fiction onto a living man. That's not fair. That's not justice. This couldn't be a court of equity. So we only got one more jurisdiction left. That's maritime, which there must be a maritime contract in play for you to be subject to the jurisdiction of such court. I mean, I do see a flag in here with fringes on it, an admiral flag, maritime admiralty. Admiralty is the law of the sea at the time of war. Maritime is the sea, law of sea at the time of peace. Yeah, the regular flag, the regular flag, the regular American flag flying outside your local courthouse doesn't have fringes on it. But you go in the courtroom and see how different the flag looks. Oh, it's just pretty as a decoration. Oh, well, is it? Well, is that why the admiral flies his flag at sea? So when you board his ship, you know you're under the admiral law, military law, where fictions who contracted and agreed to be in that system are dealt with. National. It doesn't have anything to do with nationals. But we go in there and we get ourselves in trouble. Because as a national, I know I'm not in trouble unless I don't know how to defend myself against this. And I'm not talking about by way of hiring their attorneys and playing their games. Yeah, you in trouble if you don't know what you're doing. But when you go in there with the authority of the universe and you understand and you overstand the law for educational purposes, you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be scared. You go for it. You don't, like I said, you don't go in there trying to drive their vehicle, let them drive. So, sir, did you get your notice? Objection. I told you I was here making a third party, as a third party intervener. On behalf of the defendant, I got my paperwork together. I don't have to say that out loud. Just illustrating the point for the purposes of this video. There's a lot of stuff that you know you don't say. You just operate and understand. You standing on this the whole time. You in your square. You relaxed. They making you an offer. I don't have to contract with you all. That's what we know in our head. We don't say that out loud. You keep it tight. You understand, overstand. And comprehend that somebody is trying to bring a liability in the court and leave it on you. No, I'm not going to be liable for that. So whoever bring the charge, bring their checkbook. Because when I walk out of here as a national, the liability is going to be in the lap of the man who brought it in there in the first place. Prosecutor. You're going to leave with the same liability you walked in here with. Head movement. You got to know you got to duck. It's a fight. But we know that we don't fight against the flesh. but those principalities, those evil spirits in those dark places, those authorities of the other side. So what are you doing, public person? You ready to man up, boss up, declare and proclaim who you are and operate as that? Or do you need your mother's tit? Do you need daddy government to take care of your children? Do you need the government to take care of you, public person? Then you're not standing in your proper status. It's all right, but it's not all right. It's all right because when you were younger, you didn't know any better. So we can get past that. But once you come into the knowledge, it's not okay anymore. All right. So if you find any of this information entertaining or educational, click and subscribe. Like my video. You see what I'm saying? I want you to be blessed. Peace to my American nationals. Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim family. Islam to my Moors. And peace to my American nationals. You are national.